I visited Sweden for the summer, fully expecting to fall in love with the city itself. However, my friend, I was completely unprepared to find myself captivated by the entire female population there. Because in Stockholm in summer, it truly seems like someone opened a secret portal, unleashing an army of tall, blonde, tanned women, all moving through the city as if in a Nordic paradise. Walking through parks feels like a spiritual experience. Beautiful women in bikinis lying face down, sunbathing, and there I am, trying to look at the horizon but accidentally going cross-eyed. With one eye on the lake and the other on the local attraction, another beautiful woman passes by. Suddenly, you're transformed into a teenager experiencing puberty, desperately trying to maintain adult composure to prevent your little friend from getting excited, if you catch my drift. Impossible, simply impossible. And when the sun goes down, then the temperature really climbs, my friend. Those same women, now adorned with makeup, tall and elegant, sometimes become so intoxicated they begin to smile at you, offering an unexpected boost of morale. All I can ponder is, they're letting us dream. It's captivating, chaotic, and emotionally perilous. And that's when it hit me. If the summer in Sweden already messes with your mind so much, what about the rest of the country? Accompany me now, because Sweden also has a dark side, you see? But I'll only tell you about that if you're brave enough to stick around until the end. Initial impression. When I first got to Stockholm, my immediate thought was, all right, where's the dull side? Because in our collective imagination, Sweden is perpetually a somewhat neutral territory, a land of gorgeous, blonde, attractive women, well-organized with high taxes, who drink coffee and feel melancholy during the winter. Right? Nobody ever says, wow, my ultimate dream in life is to visit Stockholm. But they definitely should, you know? It all starts the moment you land at the airport. You exit the plane, and it feels as though you've entered a guide on how a country ought to operate. Everything's clean and quiet. No one's shouting Uber, taxi, or hey pal at you, nor are they pushing pirated SIM cards or attempting to scam you. Odd, isn't it? When you're accustomed to airports that resemble a bus terminal on a public holiday, with folks eager to swindle you, then you arrive here and your thought is, something isn't quite right. Where's the chaos? Then comes the first punch in the gut, the price. You check the train fare from the airport to the city center and can't help but think, fantastic, I've just shelled out a whole month's rent for a mere 20-minute journey. However, that's precisely when you begin to grasp the Swedish logic. If it's expensive, at least it works. The Arlanda Express is exactly that. You simply pick up your luggage, follow the oversized signs, purchase your ticket from any machine or directly on your cell, board the train, and off you go. No haggling, no drama, no shady character offering you a private transfer. And then you start to wonder, imagine if in my country, everything that was expensive at least worked. Arriving in the city center, you get the second surprise, the subway system. I've used public transportation in various parts of the world, and honestly, some cities' subway systems seem like they were designed by someone with an intense dislike for humanity. Not Stockholm. Stockholm feels like it was designed by an engineer who went to therapy, got a good night's sleep, and decided to be a better person. The lines are easy to understand, the stations are well marked, the trains arrive on time, and there's a bizarre detail. The stations aren't merely transport hubs, they're essentially underground art galleries in themselves. You descend into the subway system, and it suddenly seems as if you've walked into a museum. Painted walls, sculptures, colors, a concept. While we're struggling to even have stations with functioning escalators in our country, the Swedes are contemplating, what if we transform this into an artistic masterpiece? And the undeniable question that looms is, who made the decision that it was a splendid idea to conceal one of the planet's most stunning subways beneath the earth, and on top of that, impose high taxes to maintain it? And the worst part, it works. The initial impression truly holds that power. Stockholm isn't overtly begging for your affection. It doesn't use aggressive marketing, it doesn't shove a postcard in your face. It just exists, beautiful, organized, silent. And you gradually begin to notice it. It's truly the kind of city that captivates you through its intricate details. Trains arrive on schedule, signs are logical, connections flawless, and the subway is a movie set. And then, an uncomfortable question starts to creep in. If the transport is perfect, The look is perfect. The silence is perfect. What's wrong underneath it all? Because a city that's too perfect is always hiding something, and Stockholm hides it very well. It's expensive, and for good reason. Stockholm's next lesson is quite simple. Prepare both your wallet and your soul. Because, my friend, this city has a special ability to make you think, did I really need to eat today? And the worst part is, you pay a fortune, but you can't even get mad, because everything works so well, you almost feel guilty. Straight away, you uncover Sweden's primary law. Everything comes with a cost, and absolutely nothing is inexpensive. Want to save money? Great! First rule, don't argue with the public transport. It's the boss. Discard the thought, I'll trek 40 minutes because I'm a real budget traveler. Here, you're not a real budget traveler. You're merely a struggling tourist, just trying to get by in one of Europe's priciest capitals. And their system, oh, it's a real piece of work, the kind that truly gets under your skin. You have the option to purchase a 24 or 48-hour pass, use the provided physical card, or simply tap your phone against the reader for seamless access. And that's it. Why hasn't the rest of the world copied this yet? Well, I'm not sure myself. But it functions so smoothly you're left wondering, should I embrace Sweden, or will Sweden embrace me? To truly master Stockholm, however, one must uncover its hidden dark secret. Lunch is the sole moment of the day when you're not weeping while settling the tab. Upscale restaurants, regular eateries, any establishment really, all provide a lunch menu. And it's not that sad, on-sale food, you know? It's a good meal, served fast, half the price, and of course, organized the Swedish way. It's the sole moment of the day when you truly feel like you're scoring a good bargain. And then you wonder, why do they do this? Out of pity? Tradition? Strategy? Pity for the broke tourist? The answer? Nobody knows. But be grateful and take advantage, because if you wait to eat at night, my friend, you're screwed. The kitchens close early, like 6:30 or 7 p.m., without any mercy. You arrive cheerfully, weary from the day, anticipating a lovely dinner, only to be confronted with Sweden's most disheartening phrase, kitchen closed. Then arises the existential quandary. How can a people residing in such cold climates shut down their restaurants so early? When do they eat? Are they all doing intermittent fasting? And what's worse, if you want a typical sauna experience, you also have to book in advance. Sweden operates like a company. Everything needs to be scheduled. Stockholm is beautiful, organized, cold, and expensive. But if you understand the game, you survive. If you don't, you become another statistic of a tourist starving at 9 p.m. And then you begin to ponder, is a city operating this way truly functional, or is it merely concealing a far more significant underlying issue? Hold on, we'll address that shortly. The break no one questions. If there's one thing Stockholm takes more seriously than high taxes, subway silence, and beautiful people feigning ignorance, it's the Fika. And if you've never heard of this before, calm down. It's not some secret Viking ritual. Fika is essentially just a short break. A sacred afternoon break for coffee, a sweet treat, and some relaxed conversation. But the way the Swedes handle this, my friend, seems like a clandestine national holiday. In Brazil, we make excuses to our boss for carnival. In Sweden, they simply make sure the break is on the agenda. Companies schedule Fika, families schedule Fika. Some cafes literally live off of it. Their fiscal year must depend on how much cinnamon goes on the buns. And there you are, an innocent tourist, walking downtown, window shopping, and suddenly you get that strange feeling, maybe it's time to stop everything and eat a pastry. The answer is always yes. In Stockholm, it's always time. And the craziest part? Everything in this city is pricey, except for one thing, coffee. And then, a dramatic turn, free refills. In a country where a sandwich sets you back $20, coffee is truly endless. Why? I don't know. Don't ask, just drink. In the cafes, you'll see it all. A Swede reading a book like he's the star of a European film. A Swedish woman devouring a building-sized cake without a shred of guilt. And a foreigner trying to look like a digital nomad while secretly sending out resumes. And all of this in a silence so organized that even the chaos is scheduled. Then, the century's greatest culture shock arrives. They dine ridiculously early. If you try to have dinner at 8 p.m., Congratulations, you've just unlocked a new level of hunger. Everything's shut down, the kitchen's dead, the waiter is leaving as if you were the one to blame. And so the obvious questions arise. How do people who invented a daily dessert break close restaurants so early? They have dinner at 6 p.m., and then what do? Oh, right, they drink, and they drink seriously. Every now and then you'll find beautiful drunk women stumbling through the streets as if they've just lost a battle against their own wine. And deep down, Fika is not just about coffee with a pastry. It's about preserving sanity in a country where the sun goes on a 6-month holiday. Now think about it. How can a city so perfect, so organized, and so polite hide massive problems just 3 subway stops from the very center? Hold on, because that answer doesn't come with coffee and cake. The truth is coming out, and I will share all the details with you. Nature, serving as a mere facade. If you really want to understand Stockholm, there's a simple thing you must do: walk. That's it. No crazy itinerary, no checklist. Just put on your sneakers and let the city swallow you whole in the most beautiful way possible. Because Stockholm has a strange power. It makes you believe that everything there just works. Everything is clean, calm, and organized. And to top it off, nature is thrust upon you as if it were a bonus. You walk just 10 minutes and suddenly a waterside boardwalk appears, then a garden with beautiful greenhouses, an island full of trails, and people swimming in the summer as if it's the most natural thing in the world. And then you wonder, how can a capital have more nature than many national parks? That's just it. Stockholm feels like a city designed to compel you to unwind, as though the Swedes declared, "Since we endure cold weather for half the year, let's compensate with our architecture." You ascend hills, navigate quaint streets, traverse bridges, and the city grants you vistas that resemble illustrations from a children's storybook. There are viewpoints to see sunsets reflect on colorful rooftops. There are high rocks where people climb to watch the sky turn pink. There are narrow paths that make you forget you're in a capital city full of problems. And then that feeling hits you, the one every tourist gets. Wow, this place is simply too perfect. Where's the catch? It's impossible not to be enchanted. There's a neighborhood with small chalets and gardens planted by residents, each little house with its own vegetable patch, everything photogenic, everything tidy, as if someone came by beforehand just to make sure it was pretty enough for tourists to photograph. Walking this green trail with a gentle breeze and water-lapping rocks, your mind begins to conspire. Is everyone here naturally so serene? Or does the government perhaps add something to the water supply? Might all this pervasive quietness be concealing something deeper? And then, you reach the point where you simply embrace the illusion. Stockholm truly resembles a city from a glossy advertisement like those featured in life insurance commercials or for lavish condominiums. But then, just as you're feeling completely at ease, convinced you've at last stumbled upon the ideal country, reality strikes hard. This tranquility exists solely in this pretty city section. You just need to go a few subway stops away to understand that this Nordic calm has a very short expiration date and a very clear geographical boundary. The Park City is authentic, but it also serves as a highly effective disguise. And that's precisely when we begin to explore the other side, the one that no one ever shares on Instagram, a place where Sweden transforms into something entirely distinct from anything you could possibly have envisioned. Hey, do me a favor. Share this video with that friend of yours who thinks he's going to win over a blonde girl in Stockholm, but who, if he turns down the wrong street, will discover that Sweden has surprises that not even Google Maps warns you about. And that's what I'm going to show you now, the other Sweden. Breathe with me, because the postcard is gone now. And yes, from here on out, Stockholm stops smiling and starts staring back at you. You know the pretty version of the city. Beautiful, clean, quiet, full of lakes, bike paths, and blonde people who look like they came out of an IKEA catalog. Well, it does exist, but that's merely one part of the story. Do you wish to know how to turn that page? The subway system. Just take the same subway that gets you to the Instagrammable museum, the cute coffee shop, the pink sunset, and get off a few stops later. There you go. You've just landed in another country within Sweden. And I already know what you're thinking. But wasn't Stockholm supposed to be super safe? Yeah, of course it is. In the center, on the tourist map, in the part that was made for tourists to see and post. Venture just 2 kilometers beyond that idyllic bubble, my friend. The entire dynamic shifts with the speed of a video game update. Here's the truth they omit from the advertisements. Stockholm has transformed into a massive social laboratory. It's literally two cities sharing the same zip code, making little effort to blend. On one side, Swedish smiles, babies in strollers, coffee with cinnamon, organized silence. On the other, a parallel reality that all of Europe pretends doesn't exist. And you perceive this in such a straightforward manner that it almost causes pain for the people involved. Downtown, Swedes are abundant. In the suburbs, however, where are they? They're just not there. And here comes the question that shatters any romantic notion. How did such an organized country let entire neighborhoods become independent zones? The answer starts with one word: immigration. Sweden opened its heart, its door, its window, its roof, and then failed to integrate anyone. What's the outcome? Neighborhoods where Swedish is unspoken, signs in unrecognizable languages, a distinct parallel culture, gangs vying for territory, and gunshots the tourist won't even echo. Stockholm is so divided it's comically stark. You cross a single avenue and poof, you've loaded an entirely new map. The craziest part? Everyone knows, no one speaks. It's a taboo subject. It's uncomfortable. It's just too politically risky to admit that the perfect country has cracked down the middle. Speaking of these issues openly essentially invites being labeled or even facing cancellation. But then you get off at stations like Tensta and Rinkeby, and the postcard image crumbles in your hands. Colors fade, mood shifts, gazes alter. And your immediate thought is, where's Sweden? On the bus, in cafes, in stores, the population is almost entirely immigrants from the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. And it's not that cute UN commercial kind of multiculturalism either. It's genuinely parallel here, like entering a Wild West saloon. You enter a cafe and everyone slowly turns their head. All that's missing is the dramatic music. Signs in other tongues, Arab barbers, African markets, Somali salons. And the Swedes? Man, the Swedes have turned into an absolute minority right in their own capital city. And then comes the question no one asks, but everyone thinks, how did they let this happen right under their noses? And the mood gets worse when the sun goes down. The orange warning light illuminates, and you finally comprehend why every Swede discusses it with such ease. Don't hang around there after dark. The perfect Sweden lives downtown. The real Sweden lives out here in the suburbs, and these two versions of the same country barely speak to each other anymore. The most intense part? What you've heard so far is just the entry point. Now, we'll get to hear accounts from people who actually reside there. The voices of the conflict. When you arrive in the real Stockholm, not the one on the postcard, but the one on the streets where tourists don't go, one thing becomes clear. Nobody agrees on anything, but everyone agrees that something went very wrong. And what's truly astonishing is that every individual inhabits a Sweden entirely distinct, as if three separate nations shared the identical postal code. The first voice is a newly arrived Eritrean preacher distributing pamphlets downtown. The guy's only been here a month and exclaims, "Do I like Sweden? No." The people here only think about cars, houses, and money. You hear that and think, bro, you chose the most organized capital on the planet to complain about capitalism? But at the same time, his statement has a sting of truth. Stockholm feels like a display of costly minimalism, with people trying not to appear worried. Then comes the second voice, the Americans, a 21-year-old reporter who's touring European cities that are socially melting down. He speaks with a sincerity a Swede wouldn't dare to have. In the United States, it's dangerous, sure, but at least there we can talk about the problems. Here, you can't even comment. That statement cuts like a knife, as it hits home precisely. Stockholm has its share of problems, but the city has been taught not to speak about them. All of Europe, in fact. It's become taboo. Immigration, crime, gangs, ghettos, religious tension. Everyone sees it, but nobody touches it. It's as if admitting the problem is worse than solving it. And if you do talk, you get cancelled. And then the third voice emerges, the heaviest, the hardest to digest, and also the most tense, the so-called Swedish far right, the people from the Nordic resistance movement. They come in with a strong opinion. Integration has completely failed. The suburbs are no longer Swedish. The welfare state has collapsed. There are homeless Swedes while immigrants live on benefits. It used to be safe, now there are explosions, shootings, and assaults on women. We're sending these Mohammeds back. It's a toxic mix of real data and pure hatred. The most uncomfortable part is that the statistics actually match what he's saying. But they take this piece of truth, pour gasoline on it, and turn it into propaganda. And there you are, in the middle of this war of narratives, trying to figure out which of these versions is the real Sweden. The answer? None of them. Or worse, all of them at the same time. On one side, a religious man said people lost their soul. On the other, an American complaining that Europe has lost its courage. And in the loudest corner, extremists screaming that Sweden has lost its identity. Meanwhile, those who live in the suburbs are losing space. Those who live downtown are losing patience. And anyone who visits the country loses the illusion that a perfect society exists. That's the feeling. Stockholm is a broken mirror. Every piece reflects a distinct truth, and all those fragments cut deep. And unfortunately, this is just the beginning, because now we're going to get into the heaviest part of the story. Crime, explosions, fear, and a state that's chasing its own tail while posing as perfect in the city center. The crisis behind the order. You arrive in Stockholm and think, okay, I've found the perfect city. Everything is so organized, so clean, so quiet, it almost feels like a computer simulation. But then, the unspoken question arises. How can a flawless nation conceal so much brokenness? Because you only need to take the subway in the wrong direction to discover the other Stockholm, the one not shown in beautiful influencer photos. While the city center embodies that enchanting Nordic fairy tale vibe, the suburbs are quite literally ablaze. Sweden in 2025 has garnered global attention due to explosions, shootings, gang activities, and even 14-year-old boys involved in drug trafficking. Yes, explosions. In Europe, in the continent's most civilized nation. And the most surreal part is how this coexists with the postcard version of Sweden, as if nothing is happening. It's almost an unstated rule. Let's enjoy our coffee and pastry, and just pretend the explosion didn't happen 2 stations down the line. Because today, Sweden is a rich country with the problems of a broken one. The nation, once a symbol of security, now tops the European ranking for firearm homicides involving young individuals. At the top, surpassing France, Italy, the United Kingdom. How did this occur so rapidly? The answer emerges when you speak with any Swede. Or rather, try to talk, because many are afraid to speak on camera. Some areas police enter escorted, some areas police simply avoid. And there are places where gangs are more respected than the government itself. And then comes the point that borders on absurd. The police don't investigate fraud below a certain amount. In other words, if they stole a small amount from you, congratulations, you get a good luck with that. Meanwhile, Sweden's famous social system, a great source of national pride, is indeed crumbling. Immigrants living on benefits for years, crowded hospitals, overwhelmed schools, a growing deficit, and elderly Swedes collecting bottles in the cold to make ends meet. And the question that stings more than the -10-degree wind, how does the richest country in Europe produce so many homeless Swedes? Yes, elderly, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedes asking for a blanket. The calculations just don't tally, and this fact is widely known. Yet no one speaks of it, for in Sweden, even reality must adhere to political correctness. And one cultural detail worsens it. Swedes avoid confrontation. They evade quarrels, eschew disputes, and shun conflict to avoid activist cancellation. They are a polite, quiet, and peaceful people. Now just imagine them confronting armed gangs. Who do you think is in control of the situation? Spoiler alert, it's not the state. The result is this absurd contrast. In the center, beautiful people jog in expensive thermal gear, sipping artisanal coffee, living perfect lives. 5 stations onward, broken windows, Arabic and Somali signs, children abandoned, tension everywhere, and no Swedes in sight. It's like visiting 2 countries on a single subway ride. And then, the final potent question arises. How did Europe's most organized nation become so problematic so quickly? It wasn't quick, it was silent, and now they can no longer sweep it under the rug. Sweden became this: a divided capital, a numb center, a collapsing periphery, and people trying to fix chaos with pastries, colorful subways, and an exaggerated calm that feels medicated. It's beautiful, it's tense, it's strange, it's addictive, and it's the real Sweden, the one nobody has the courage to show. Sweden is too beautiful to ignore and too complex to romanticize. And upon visiting, you return exclaiming, "Wow, Sweden is far more profound and riddled with contradictions than I had ever remotely envisioned." If you've made it this far and survived all that, comment below, Sweden. Oh, and don't hesitate. Click on the video that's appearing on the screen. In it, I show you the other side of this country, the one you can't even imagine. Thanks, and see you later.